Hello, my name is Oliver. Today I'm going to tell you a story about the tale of three countries, Korea, China, and Japan. The Yamato emperors of Japan had a big job. They had to rule over many different clans who were used to having their own way. Claiming that they were descended from goddess Amatsu gave it to the emperors some power. But they knew that they also had to be good rulers if they want to be control of Japan. So the Yamato emperors borrowed ideas from how to rule their country from two other countries, China and Korea. Korea is a peninsula, a piece of land surrounded by water on three sides. It juts out into the Pacific Ocean from the eastern side of China. The Korean people had lived on this peninsula for thousands of years. But back in the days when the Roman Empire was still powerful, Chinese war leaders invaded Korea and ruled part of it. The Korean people didn't want to be ruled by China, so they fought back. Eventually, the Chinese had to retreat until they only ruled the very northern part of the peninsula. The rest of Korea was divided into three parts called the Three Kingdoms. These three Korean kingdoms ruled themselves. Now the Korean people no longer had to obey the Chinese. The Koreans had learned Chinese writing and Chinese customs from invaders. They had learned about the Buddha, and many Koreans had become followers of Buddhist ways. So even though they were ruled by China, the people of Korea had become like the Chinese in many ways. The kingdom on the western side of Korea was called Pach. The king of Pach hoped that he would conquer the other two kingdoms and add their land to his own. So he decided to make friends with Japan. After all, Japan was right across the water, and the armies of Japan could help the kingdom of Pach become stronger than the other kingdoms of Korea. So the king of Pach sent members of his court across the island of Japan. "We like to be friends," he said, "and if we decide to fight with our neighbors, we'd like you to come and fight with our side." To convince the emperor of Japan to be his friend, he sent presents too: silks, teas, jewels, and a book with Chinese letters in it. The Japanese court likes the silks, teas, and jewels, but they had never before seen a book with Chinese letters in it. They had fascinated by these letters. The emperor sent a message back across the water to Korea. "I want my son, the prince, to learn how to read and write these letters," he said. "Can you send someone to teach him?" The king of Pach agreed. According to ancient stories, he sent a tutor named Wani. Wani taught the prince how to read and write Chinese letters. Soon, the whole court learned how to read and write in Chinese. The Koreans also taught the Japanese about the Buddha. Soon, many people in Japan became Buddhists as well. Japanese emperors gave their nobleman titles that were like Korean titles. They keep their chronicles and their court records in Chinese characters, just like the Korean court did. Soon, all the important people in Japanese court spoke Chinese. Only the common people used Japanese. Japanese noblemen sent their sons to study in China. These young men came back to Japan with Chinese ideas, Chinese games, and even Chinese hairdos. New cities in Japan were laid out just like Chinese cities. Korea and Japan copied many things in Chinese, but that didn't keep China from wanting to rule over Korean and Japanese land. And although it was difficult for Chinese army to march in Japan because of the water that lay between China and the Japanese coast, it was much easier for China to invade Korea. During the Tang Dynasty, the Chinese marched back into Korea again. they wiped out the Package Kingdom. And although the people of other kingdoms eventually drove the Chinese soldiers back out of their country, it took them 6 long years of difficult fighting. Japan saw what had happened to Korea and didn't want to be next. They only want to be equals. The Chinese called themselves the land of a rising sun, and China the land of setting sun. This was their way of saying that Japan was just as important as China. But it was very difficult to be equal in a country as large as China. China was like a big old beech tree with beautiful leaves and long shady limbs. A huge beech tree cast so much shade that other plants couldn't grow beneath it. The tree chokes out other smaller trees. The Japanese felt a little bit like a small pine trying to grow underneath with a huge sprouting beech. So, 400 years after Yamato Prince learned how to write in Chinese, the Yamato Emperor broke off all ties with China. Japan would no longer send its young men to China. Instead, the Japanese began to write, to paint, to dress, and think in their own unique Japanese way. Thank you for your attention.